Guests, friends, and dear Toastmasters, welcome to the Toastmasters, the world's biggest platform for public speaking skills and leadership skills. We are District 31, and I am Veera Sriram, your public relations manager. I welcome you to the Open Heart with District 31. Believe it or not, it's our fifth episode of Open Heart with District 31. Tonight, I have a very special guest, a Toastmaster who's an embodiment of the skills and principles of Toastmasters. What do we have? Respect, integrity, excellence, and service. When you look at this Toastmaster, respect automatically comes out. He is the personification of all the principles of Toastmasters. A dear friend, always encouraging not only me but other Toastmasters in district, in division, a remarkable district director, division director, someone who can call a peer, a friend, my good friend, Toastmaster David Lintz. Welcome to the Open Heart with District 31. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Vera, and thank you for inviting me. I hope I can live up to that introduction.
Thank you, Toastmaster David. As we start off our interviews, Toastmaster David, one question that I'll all ask my guests is Toastmasters journey. How did your Toastmasters journey start? Where did it start? When did it start? How did it start?
So it actually started by accident. This goes back to 2014 when I was working for Raytheon BBN Technologies, and there was a person in charge of professional development. Raytheon BBN Technologies basically operates as a consulting firm without a sales force. Basically, the scientists are the sales force, and you need to be able to pitch your ideas. And she was bemoaning the fact that we had so many talented scientists who were not going to get as far in their careers as they needed to because of communications issues. So I came up with the bright idea, well, why don't you start a Toastmasters chapter at BBN? They could do it and it would be great for them. And she said, wonderful, I'm going to check. And she came back to me a week later. She said, there's a meeting that's taking place next Tuesday. I'd like to go to it. Would you mind accompanying me? I just want to get your opinion on what you think of the meeting. So I went along with her, and it was a good meeting, well run, a lot of people, a lot of enthusiasm. And the next day I said, I think this is fantastic. I think this would work out great for BBN. And she said, I'm so glad you're saying that. Would you consider joining? And I said, I don't think so. I'm pretty far in my career already. I don't think it's for me. So she took that as an answer, thanked me for going, but then came back and said, we have the 20 people we need, but I think it would be good if we had some of the more senior people in the company join. So do me a favor, just join for 3 months. It's all I ask. People will start to come and it'll just kind of prime the pump. It'll get things going. So how can you refuse a request for 3 months? So I did that, ended up giving my icebreaker at the very first meeting, since we were all new to Toastmasters. It was a new club. And after 3 months, I was hooked. As I said, this was back in 2014. And at the time I belonged just to the one club. Since then, I've joined an advanced club in Brookline. I joined a club in my hometown, Needham, where I live, another wonderful club. And I've served as a club president, as an area director, and a division director. And for a number of years, I was competing pretty regularly in the contests. Got to the district level 3 times, unfortunately, never won at that level, but it was still pretty cool getting that far. And throughout it all, it's just been the sort of place that the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And although I jumped in reluctantly, once I was in with both feet, and just tried to do as many different things as I could, getting into leadership, getting into the contests, and so forth.
Congratulations on your 8-year anniversary. I think that is coming up soon.
Thank you.
How about the speech contest, Toastmaster David? Is it the adrenal rush that you get during speech contest that attracts you to compete? Or is it the experience of giving a speech? Is it the whole process of improving your speech from club contest to area contest to division contest to district contest? Which factor attracts you to go and give speeches at speech contests or compete in speech contests?
So those are all good factors that you mentioned. I'm sure all of them had a part of it. I was asked the very same question by Gina Salcedo, a very wise former district elector, who came up to me at a contest. It was at the division level and said, "Don't you get nervous before the contests?" And I said, "Gina, let me explain something to you. I have two sons and I can talk and they'll roll their eyes and I know they're not listening to me. They're focusing on something else. When you go to Toastmasters, particularly a contest, you have a room full of people and the only thing they are required to do is listen to you. And I know that there's timer cards and you're not supposed to go past 7.5 minutes. But if you don't care about getting disqualified at 7.5 minutes, you can talk as long as you want and people have to listen to you until you stop." So as far as being nervous, I said, "Are you kidding? How could you be nervous? This is heaven. I can't imagine having an opportunity like this."
What a positive spin, Toastmaster David. On that note, we move on to another question, which is the impact of Toastmasters on your personal life, professional life, social life, spiritual life. You did touch upon your professional life, but would like to listen if there were any other stories from your personal life or social life that Toastmaster had.
Thank you for that question. So I believe that my leadership skills and my communication skills have improved over time, but the nature of Toastmasters, it's a little like going to a gym. The improvement is very incremental, so you don't necessarily see it in yourself. The things that I clearly saw is I've established a number of relationships through Toastmasters that I really treasure, not the least of which is having a relationship with you, having had the opportunity to meet you, Vera, and having dealt with you over the years, but also all the people that I met in the various contests. You would tend to see the same people over and over again. The people I met in district leadership, the more things you do in Toastmasters, the more people you meet. I did a presentation with a panel for something for one of the CL cons, and that was an opportunity to get to know my panelists better, all of whom I didn't really know before it started. So all of that was really wonderful. One skill that isn't often mentioned, but I know improved, are my listening skills, which you don't usually think of as a core skill for Toastmasters. But when you think about it, you can't evaluate effectively unless you're a good listener. You can't do table topics effectively unless you're a good listener. You have to hear the question clearly. And you can't be a good officer or a leader of any sort if you're not a good listener. So much of it is just understanding where people are coming from, not making assumptions, but actually hearing them through. The reason I know I improved in this skill, though, is my wife said something to me. She said, I just remember, 10 years ago, she said this maybe 2 years ago, you just didn't seem to listen to what I said. She said, now I can see that you're quiet when I speak. You'll feed back to me something that I said to make sure that you really understood it. And then you respond. And I don't know what changed in you, but I really appreciate it. And I really think it's great. And on that one, I really do have to give credit to Toastmasters.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I wish I get the same response from my better half as well. Thank you, Toastmaster David. Now we move on to another question. Why should someone join Toastmasters? You've gained so much, but what would you say to a new guest who's watching our show? Why should they join Toastmasters? Toastmaster David.
I'm going to take that as a two-part question here. There's a reason why people join. That's one question. And then there's a reason why people stay in Toastmasters. And often the answer between the two are not the same. I think people join, and it's a perfectly legitimate reason, is they have a communication issue that they need to deal with in the short run. Either one of their managers at work have told them they need to be a better communicator, or they need to give a toast at a wedding, or something comes up in their life where they have to get better at speaking, giving speeches. So people like that, I think about Toastmasters, often think about Toastmasters just in terms of the skills it helps you as a speaker. Once you join Toastmasters, though, you notice that it's a number of other things that it does for you. I had mentioned how it improves listening skills, evaluation skills. You have an opportunity to improve leadership skills, all sorts of things that are a little bit in the background when people first thinking about joining. But these are often reasons why people stick around in Toastmasters, I think. One of the really great things is just being part of the community. Toastmasters is basically a group of volunteers. In fact, it's one of the few organizations that's able to charge people to provide services to others. So it tends to be a very generous group of people, always eager to give of themselves to help others. I can't tell you the number of mentors I've had over the years who, when I've had some issue that I needed to deal with, have been happy to jump in to try to help me. And for the most part, even before any of these people had former mentor training, they were just very good, natural mentors, very good listeners, very clear about trying to understand what I was trying to accomplish through the mentor before they would jump in with their ideas. So for anybody thinking about joining, my advice is join. It's only $45 if it's in a corporate club. In many cases, it's free. And just decide you're going to give it a try for 3 months. And I think typically within 3 or 6 months, you're going to know if it's for you. And it might not be. So what did you risk by doing it? But you might find out that it really works for you. But you're only going to be able to give it a good test if you actually jump in with both feet. So even in a 3-month period, 6-month period, there's a lot you can do. If you belong for just 3 months, you can certainly give your first speech, your icebreaker speech. You can certainly participate in table topics. You can certainly take on roles. If you're willing to stick around a little longer, you don't have to be very senior in your career in Toastmasters before you have a chance to be a club officer. So the notion is jump in with both feet. There's no question Toastmasters can take up a lot of time, as I'm sure you, Vera, can attest to, but it's really takes up as much time as you want it to. You can have more time or less time, but you need to commit to it. I described it as being similar to a gym before, but it's a lot like a gym membership. You pay a certain amount, and it's a waste of money if you go to the gym once a month, right? And it's a great value if you go 4 or 5 times a week. So you have to view Toastmasters as something that you're going to really commit to. You're going to set goals at the beginning of the year. You're going to talk to your vice president of education so they can help you with your goals, or to whoever else might be able to be helpful for you as a mentor for you. And if you give it that kind of good faith effort and you still don't like it, something else you prefer to do with your time, that's fine. But I'm guessing for most people who really jump into it with both feet, they're going to consider that $45 every 6 months one of the best bargains for an organization they can find.
Thank you, Toastmaster David. That's well said. Now, you also mentioned about Advanced Toastmasters Club. How different is this, Toastmaster David? And would you like to give a plug-in for your home club, Advanced Toastmasters Club?
Thank you. Well, I'll talk about them in general, and then I'll tell you which one's the best in the district. I believe right now our district has 8 advanced clubs. And the thing that distinguishes them, or there's 2 things that distinguish them. First, they typically have some sort of experience requirement in order to get in. So for example, my club in Brookline, Advanced Access Toastmasters, requires that you complete 3 levels of pathways, or if you had started earlier and you completed a competent communicator, that would count as well. So you basically have people in the club, everybody knows what they're doing. Some people obviously are more experienced than others, but you could assume a certain level of experience. The other thing that distinguishes them, advanced clubs typically are very focused on evaluation. So in my Advanced Access Club, for example, we have our own evaluation form that's different than the Pathways forms. It focuses on the things we've decided as a club are really important. And the other thing we do, and I believe most of the advanced clubs, at least in District 31, have group evaluations. So in other words, the assigned evaluator does the typical 2 to 3 minute evaluation, and then it's opened up to the entire club for an additional 3 or 4 minutes where anyone can give a comment on what they saw. And the thing that's nice about it is sometimes you'll hear something in the formal evaluation that just doesn't resonate. And a comment from somebody later on might be completely different, that they have a completely different take on it. So seeing all these things really helps. And just getting so many perspectives really helps you develop, because if your assigned evaluator doesn't particularly resonate with you, but somebody else does, you have the advantage of that. And just hearing a number of different perspectives, you learn that anything that's said in an evaluation, you don't take as gospel. It's simply somebody's opinion, and you take the portion that you find valuable, and you can discard the portion that you don't.
Thank you for sharing something about advanced Toastmasters clubs. Toastmasters David, now we move on to our final section, which is also called the rapid fire round.
Okay.
Here, I would ask you a few quick questions and I would expect impromptu, quick, short answers. Toastmasters David, are you ready for it?
All set.
Toastmasters David, your favorite historical speech, if you have any.
Oh, that's an easy one. It's the Gettysburg Address, mostly for the economy of language. Abraham Lincoln gave that speech in 2 minutes and 27 seconds, I think. So more than the 2 minutes you're allowed for table topics. But if he were in a contest, he would not disqualify. And you think of all the things that he got into that speech. And when you think that he was not the headline speaker that day, the headline was Edward Everett, former governor of Massachusetts, diplomat, maybe the greatest speaker of the 19th century after Daniel Webster. And Lincoln, in his 2.5 minutes, did more than Everett ever did that day in more than 2.5 hours.
Thank you, Toastmasters David. A historic leader or any leader that inspires you a lot.
So that's such a good question, because everybody has flaws, and it depends on what aspects of the person that you look at. But I would say Franklin Roosevelt, who really inherited a country that could have gone in a number of different ways. There were fundamental questions about democracy as a way to run a government. There were questions about how slow the process was, that if you had to take emergency action, our form of government was too plodding and slow to happen. And he was able somehow to steer through that. And if all he had done was gotten us through the Great Depression, I think he would have been on most people's list as certainly one of the top 2 or 3 presidents. But after that, then to face the challenge of World War II, at a time when America was a much different country than now. We were essentially an isolationist country without a significant standing army, feeling that if Europe has its problems, they already got through World War I, we bailed them out of that. Why should Europe's problems be our problems? And he was able to behave like a true leader, which, the definition is his countrymen believed one thing, he knew they were wrong, he believed something else. And he was able to get the country to follow his direction, and just a remarkable achievement that we were able to fight that war with such a reluctant population going into it.
Thank you, Toastmasters David. Your personal speech that you felt wonderful delivering it and you really had a sense of satisfaction after giving a speech.
I think it's actually one of my humorous speeches. It's a speech about my wife, who, when our youngest child went off to college and there was a bit of empty nest syndrome, she went out and bought a bunny rabbit as a pet. And I gave a speech about this whole thing. She bought the pet, and I didn't find out about it until I came home one night. And it ended up having dental problems, and we had to take it to the bunny dentist. And then it turned out we had to give him penicillin shots, and guess who was volunteered as the nurse to do that? So this was a speech that almost wrote itself. I had so much of the language in the speech were essentially quotes from her. I believe I hit the 25%, no more than 25% on quoted material, but maybe not by much. And it was such a fun speech because the story itself, it just brought a smile back to me as I reminisced about it and thought about it and laid it out.
Thank you. That definitely is a lot of humor there. Your favorite book, Toastmaster David, that you like to recommend to our Toastmasters and guests?
This book came out maybe 20 years ago. It was called Good to Great. The author was Jim Collins, who's a management consultant. And he did a study of what he considered the top 20 countries, 20 companies in the country at the time he wrote the book. I can't recall what the criteria is. He had some objective criteria for doing it. But he talked about a lot of the commonalities in the leadership of these companies. And one of the things that he said that has really stuck with me is that it's a waste of time to try to motivate people. And if that's what your objective is, you've already lost the battle. His point is you recruit people who are already motivated or self-motivated, and those are the people you want in your company. And if you have people who are looking for somebody else to motivate them, the smartest thing you can do is replace them with people who are self-motivated, because he just doesn't believe that there are cases where in the short run, extrinsic motivation works, but his point and my life experience seems to bear this out, is intrinsic motivation is really what carries you for a long period of time. And it was just interesting as he ran his list of companies and the number of examples he had where what made these companies strong wasn't that the CEO was so brilliant, but that the group of lieutenants he had and just the spirit through the company is, for whatever reason, there was a spirit of we're all in this together, and people were just really motivated to do what they could to make the company succeed.
Pretty awesome. So, Smart David, your favorite dish to eat, something which you really love to eat.
So you're going to think I'm saying this just because you're Indian, but I can promise you it's not. It is lamb vindaloo.
Oh,
And it's not even because it's one of the hottest and spiciest dishes. It's that it has this vinegary flavor. So the combination of that and the pieces of potato, and particularly if it's a good quality lamb and a nice tender piece of lamb, and then the sauce on top of it, and just all these flavors at the same time, which you would think that it could be a disaster that they could all clash because there's so many flavors at the same time. But somehow it works like a symphony if you go to a place that's skilled at making it. And I think one of the best Indian restaurants in the area happens to be in my hometown of Needham, Masala Art, where they are masters at lamb vindaloo.
I would agree. That's a good restaurant. Thank you, Toastmasters David. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our district and our guests?
Just once again, thank you for the invitation to appear with you on this. I really enjoyed it. And to encourage people who haven't joined Toastmasters yet, as I mentioned before, to think about joining it. And for people who have joined, but have not yet jumped in with both feet, even if you've been a Toastmaster for 5 years, 10 years, whatever, it's never too late. And if you do it, I can promise you, you will get more out of it than you put into it.
Thank you, Toastmasters David. It was a pleasure talking to you this evening. Have a wonderful day. Dear Toastmasters, this was David Lintz, my good friend, and it was a pleasure talking to him. If you like this episode and if you like one of your dear Toastmasters to show up on our talk show, please mention their name in the chat window. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need a lot of people supporting our YouTube channel. On that note, stay safe. I am Veera Sriram, your public relations manager, signing off. Have a good one. Bye bye.